Let me ask you a weird question. Has it ever happened that you opened your laptop to start studying, and somehow you ended up watching random videos for 3 hours straight, and the whole time you were thinking, okay, just one more video. I'll start in 5 minutes. Tomorrow, I'll definitely get something productive done. But then tomorrow arrives, and the exact same thing happens all over again. Now, here's the strangest part. The people to whom this happens most often are not lazy people. In fact, they are very smart people. The kids who excelled academically in school, the ones teachers used to say had so much potential, the ones who know exactly what they ought to be doing, and yet they still don't start working. So, what exactly is going on? Why do the most capable people struggle so much with the habit of procrastination? And more importantly, how can you fix this habit? Because once you understand the real reason behind it, everything will start to make sense. So let's find out. Part 1. The gifted kid trap. If you were considered a smart kid during your childhood, this might sound familiar to you. In primary school, things were easy. You didn't really need to study much. You would finish your homework quickly. Sometimes you would even wait until the very last minute, and your work would still turn out great. So, your brain quietly learned a dangerous lesson. It learned this rule: I work best under pressure. And to be honest, for a while that was actually true. You used to procrastinate, then you would panic, and then, somehow, you would manage to get the work done. Perhaps you would finish your essay at 1 a.m. Perhaps you would study just the night before a test. Perhaps you would rush to complete a project on the very morning it was due. Yet you still managed to get good grades. So your mind would say that method worked. But there is a problem here. As life gets more difficult, this method stops working because college classes become more challenging. Assignments pile up and deadlines loom closer. Responsibilities multiply. And suddenly, the method that once worked begins to fail completely. But that habit remains exactly where it was. Part 2. Smart people overthink everything. Here is something that no one tells you. Smart people don't procrastinate because they are lazy. They procrastinate because they think too much. Seriously. Because when you are intelligent, your mind anticipates every possible outcome. You find yourself thinking about things like, what if I get this wrong? What if I waste my time? What if I fail anyway? What if someone else does it better than I do? So, instead of starting, your mind chooses the path of procrastination, and it doesn't feel like procrastination. Instead, it feels like, I'll start when I'm ready. But here is the problem. Your mind keeps shifting the starting line further away. First, it goes like this: I'll start tonight. Then it becomes tomorrow morning. Then next week. Then suddenly, the night right before the deadline arrives. And now, your mind switches modes from procrastination to panic. Part 3. The problem with perfectionism. Many habits of procrastination are actually just a disguised form of perfectionism. And perfectionism sounds like a good thing, but in reality, it is one of the biggest killers of your productivity. Because perfectionism tells you, don't start until you can get it absolutely perfect. So you wait. You wait for the right mood, the right energy, the right idea, the right moment. But the truth is, that moment never comes. Meanwhile, the work just sits there. With each passing day, it looms larger in your mind. An essay begins to feel like a massive burden. A project starts to feel overwhelming. Studying seems almost impossible, and the longer you wait, the heavier it feels. Eventually, your mind says, all right, we simply have to do this now. And suddenly, you complete 3 hours worth of work in just 30 minutes. Not because you suddenly became incredibly productive, but because finally, fear drove you to get to work. Part 4. Your brain loves easy dopamine. Now, there is another reason why procrastination has become worse today than ever before, and it's right there in your pocket, your phone. Consider the contrast. Doing homework requires effort. Studying demands focus. Writing an essay consumes mental energy. But social media? Instant dopamine. One swipe, and you find something entertaining, another swipe, something even better. Your brain gets conditioned to constantly crave novelty. So, when you sit down to do something slow-paced, like reading a book, your brain immediately says, this is boring, and the phone is right there nearby. A notification, a message, a scroll, and suddenly, you're back to watching videos. This isn't a discipline problem, it's a dopamine problem. Your brain has become addicted to chasing easy rewards. Part 5. The illusion of motivation. Most people believe the solution lies in motivation. They watch productivity videos, they listen to podcasts, they binge-watch compilations of study motivation videos. But here is a bitter truth. Motivation alone won't cure procrastination, because motivation is fleeting. It lasts only for a short while. You might feel incredibly motivated tonight, but tomorrow, your brain reverts to its default state. People who excel at getting things done don't rely on motivation. They rely on a system, a set of simple habits that make starting a task easier, because the hardest part of any task isn't finishing it, it's starting it. Part 6. The 5-minute rule. Here is a trick that works almost every time. The 5-minute rule. Instead of telling yourself, I have to finish this entire assignment, tell yourself, I will work on this for just 5 minutes. That's it, just 5 minutes. Open the document, write one sentence, start reading one page. Set a timer, because simply starting the work removes the biggest barrier of all. Once your mind gets engaged in the task, it usually just keeps going. And what if you do stop after 5 minutes? That is still progress, but most of the time, you won't stop. Part 7. Design your environment. Another major mistake people make is relying on their willpower. But willpower is weak. Your environment matters far more. If your phone is sitting right next to you, you will inevitably look at it. If distractions are everywhere, your mind will chase after them. So, make it easy to focus. Put your phone in another room. Use a website blocker. Study in a quiet place. Even small changes make a huge difference. Because productivity isn't about being stronger than your distractions. It's about eliminating them. Last one, an identity shift. Here is the single biggest change that changes everything. Stop telling yourself, I am a procrastinator, because the more often you repeat this to yourself, the more your mind will adopt it as your identity. Instead, say this, I am the kind of person who starts the work, even if the work is a little messy, even if the work isn't perfectly flawless, even if you work for just 5 minutes. Because successful people aren't necessarily the most intelligent, nor are they the most talented. They are simply the kind of people who start working before they feel completely ready. So, if you are watching this video right now, and there is a task you've been putting off, like homework, studying, a project, or some important chore, then give this method a try tonight. Set a 5-minute timer and just start working. Without striving for perfection, without waiting for confidence, just start working. Because the difference between your life today and the life of your dreams often begins with just one small step. Come, let's move forward together.